and welcome to the Know Yourself Revolution podcast. My name is Grace Gravestock, and today our special guest is Sunny Gault. I'm so excited to introduce you to her. So Sunny is passionate, and you're going to hear that in just a minute, about ushering in the new earth. She seamlessly blends her personal and professional life with her passion. You'll understand more about that when I read about her grand purpose. But originally from a small town in Ohio, Sunny now calls San Diego home with her spouse, 2 boys, and identical twin girls. Sunny professionally transitioned from broadcast journalism to creating online content for new parents. And as an anchor for United Network News, she reports on real news, inspiring positive change and attracting thousands with a message of aspiration and creativity in the new earth. With a deep feeling that God has been preparing her spiritually for this, which is her most important work to date, Sunny is a messenger for United Network News. She anchors and reports on the real news, things that mainstream media would never discuss because it doesn't fit their agenda. Sunny's intention is to motivate and inspire humanity to believe in themselves and work together to become the change they want to see in the world. And you can see why Sunny and I connected. We actually connected exactly a year ago. I met somebody on her staff it seemed like a random encounter, which was very life-changing in an airport. So you never know where the synchronicities are going to come from, but I'm so excited to be connected with you now, Sunny. Welcome, and thank you for being on the Know Yourself Revolution podcast.
Yay! Thank you so much, Grace, for having me. It's great to see you again.
Yes, you've been so gracious, and I've been on UNN a couple of times, and I love the connections that come from your network are so special and so different than the average person, and I love it. We're all united in this same mission to usher in the new earth, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So. Yes, I'm so excited. So we're going to start with looking at your human design chart. And the reason for that is because I want everybody to know that we all have a purpose. It's deeply encoded in our DNA, and it shows up in what we call your energy blueprint or your human design chart. So if you'd like to find out what work you are here for and get your free chart, you can get it at whatsmychart.com. So let's look at what Sunny is here to be and do. Sunny is an orchestrator, and that is your professional type. Sunny, as we were talking about before we started recording, what's special about that, and it's so connected to your mission in ushering in the new earth, orchestrators are you make up a group of about 21%, and people like you are actually here for the purpose of leading us, guiding us into new ways of living, working, and being. How perfect for your message of ushering in the new earth, right?
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a radical message for so many people that the most important thing for people of your professional type is your social interaction strategy, which is to wait for others to come to you. So another way to say that is waiting for the invitation. And the reason that's so important is because you're not for everybody, and everybody's not going to get what you have to say. As when you are invited to a stage or to share your valuable wisdom, of which you have a lot, that's when folks are going to have a listening for what you have to say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they have to be in the right frame of mind and have to be able to accept certain things, and not everyone's there yet. And that's fine when you get there and your timing's perfect. So
absolutely. Everything in divine timing. So one of the things that jumps out at me, it's so cool and so clear about your role as a reporter, as a journalist, is your public role. I just want to point your attention to, we call it specialist. A lot of times this one line is called the researcher or the investigator. And then of course the 3 line is about exploring. And so what a perfect profile for someone that does what you do. And it's not that you're about doing, your biggest value is in being. As an orchestrator type, we were talking about the incredible amount of things that you get done, which is a lot compared to most people. All the things that you've accomplished in the last 2 years for UNN, it's just incredible and so inspiring. So thank you again for doing that. And it's such a perfect fit with your role, because as an investigator explorer, what your chart says you're here to do is to investigate And when you're not investigating, you're exploring. So
I feel like I do that all the time too, because we're never done learning, but I'll get like a nugget of something. And then that's exactly what I'll do. I'll do more research. I'll try to, find out more information. I'll talk to people to get answers as well. So yeah, that's perfect. That's what I do.
right. And so the key signs for your type is when you're on track, you feel successful. And another way to say that is recognized, acknowledged, appreciated for all the amazing work you do. And when you're not on track, you sense bitterness. You get into a state of bitterness. And that's because you have probably tried to share your wisdom with people who were unworthy of it, or for whatever reason, just were not willing or able to hear it you. And so then you can get bitter. And I'm just curious how that's been for you, if there's ever been a time in your life where that was true.
Oh, always going on. I think of a time that just happened the other day. My mother, I was talking to my mother and she's like, "So how's work?" And she knows what I do, but she doesn't get it. Okay. And sometimes she'll check in and she'll watch a newscast or listen to one of our podcast episodes or something. And she doesn't really know how to handle it. And so I get a lot of doubt from that and a lot of, how do you know this? But that bitterness that you're talking about, I don't want to feel that way towards someone I care about so much. But you're right. Like when I get confronted with that, because obviously she doesn't realize that maybe she's not meant to know this stuff right now. Maybe this just isn't her time, because you can't force this on people. And so she doesn't yet realize that. And I don't want to force it on her, but she's my mom and she asked me a question. So I'm like trying to help. And she's like, "Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you voting in this election? Why aren't you doing it?" And I'm like, "Mom, okay, just trust me. Just trust me." So yeah, that comes up not just with my mom, other people I care about. Being in this kind of work and sharing news that most people they're just not aware of how our world is structured. They're just not aware of things that have happened in the past. We were projected a certain message constantly, like we're robots, right? And a lot of people bought into that, myself included, for a very long period of time. But then you snap out of it sometimes, and not everyone snaps out at the same time. And so it's a struggle. But that bitterness, yeah, I feel that. I'm like, oh, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel that way. It happens for sure.
It happens. Yes, yes. And that's always just a sign that, as you can tell, it's just a sign that you're not in front of somebody that totally gets you, which is what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Good way to know. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you for what you do, Sunny. It's so incredibly valuable. And I want to point out that your grand purpose, you're very much in alignment with your grand purpose, which is, we're looking at these 4 key codes, 30, 29, 14, and 8. And so, as you may know, those make up 70% of what you're here to be and do. So I want to just share that. And so this informs the stories that you're going to tell us about how you came to doing this work. But you're here to explore, learn about, and model the importance of living in alignment with purpose, to lead by understanding the importance and ultimately the fulfillment of creating an alignment with the authentic self, to have the courage to follow your heart and learn to trust and demonstrate that living true to who you are creates abundance and flow, to show people how to live with passion and to use your passion to ignite the passions of others and to lead a relentlessly authentic life. And that is absolutely what you're doing. What you just demonstrated in the story, you couldn't have known that I was about to say that. No. So it just tells you you're in alignment. So that's great.
That's amazing.
Another way, whenever I see this particular purpose, is at the highest level of summary, it's about sharing the things that you feel passionate about. And so I find that people who have this particular purpose are they really to share with others whatever it is that just gets their passions flowing. And so that's what you do. So thank you for doing it. Oh, thank you for being on purpose.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm at this stage and where I'm at now. And I was given this opportunity to do this. I really do feel like I'm in the flow, that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's great to have this chart to be able to just prove that, something I already knew, but that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always good. What I like to say is that when we look at our human design, it really just gives us permission to be ourselves. And so
Yeah.
a lot of times we sense a lot of things that are true about us, but we don't always necessarily know where to focus our attention. And so just hearing it, hearing the reading or whatever, getting someone else's perspective on what we're here to be and do based on these kinds of objective things is valid, can be validating for a lot of people just to
Yeah.
know that they're on track.
Yep.
You are on track. Thank you for being, and when I started to say this before, but I just have to highlight it for you. Projectors or orchestra, traditional human design, you'd be called a projector.
Yeah.
In our language, we would call you an orchestrator. And the reason for that is because your role is really to orchestrate the energy of others, in this case, to tell a story. And that's exactly what you do. And so guiding that energy, in fact, on such a large scale, you do that so beautifully, ushering in the new earth. That's exactly what you're doing with this incredibly important project. You're literally guiding the energy of all these builder types that are doing all these things and reporting on all these things to literally usher in the new earth. So you are guiding us to new ways of living, working, and being. So in every sense of the word, you are living on purpose. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do, Sunny, because it's not easy what you do. It goes against the grain and it can be considered controversial, as you mentioned with your own family.
Yeah.
And so those of us who do these things that are a little outside the norm, we get this flack sometimes, or people don't totally understand us. But the fact that you are true to your true north and you're true to your mission, that is both inspiring and it creates a field. And that's what I wanted to say about your biggest gift. Even though you do so many amazing things, the biggest gift that you give to humanity as this particular type, as an orchestrator, is you literally hold an energetic field. And in that field, people get answers and things can come about in a way that they couldn't if you were not there holding that energetic field. So thank you on behalf of everyone who benefits from the field that you're creating and all the ways that you are ushering in the new earth, both the ways we can see and perhaps most importantly, all the ways we cannot see with our physical eyes, but we can feel as the earth continues to shift, as our society continues to shift around us. And we see validation of things changing, the new earth forming before our very eyes, thanks in large part to you and people like you who are doing their part and leading by example. So thank you so much for all that you do, Sunny. I'm so excited to hear your story and hear more about how you came to do this work. So before we shift into that, let me just ask you, I'm wondering if there's anything else you want to say about what we've covered so far before we move to the next chapter.
No, I don't think so. I'm sure I'll have a lot to say as we get into this, but thank you for doing the chart and allowing me to see that. Yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. There's so much more we could cover, but I want to make sure you have plenty of time to tell your story. And I think that what we've covered for sure shows enough. There's absolutely no question that you're on track. And so that's the point, is that we all have a purpose. It's all encoded in our chart. And when we're living in alignment with our purpose, life can be fun and easy. It's not to say we don't have challenges, but it can be more fun and more easy than it otherwise would be if we were struggling against the current of what we're here to be and do. And so from that angle, I would love to start off this conversation with you sharing how you came to do this very important purpose work. What was the challenge that you overcame that brought you to this place of understanding how to even start ushering in the new earth? It's a very big charge.
It is. It's a big charge. And I don't know if there's just one thing that I can point to per se, but I can tell you a little bit about my journey. And that is, I grew up, for me, connection to source, to God, to the creator of the universe has always been super important. It's always been there in my life. I've always been able to connect. I'm going to use the pronoun him, but I don't think it's a him, but that's just easiest for me to say because growing up in the church, it's a him. That's always been super important for me. And so throughout my life, when I look back, I see moments of connection. Like I said, I grew up in the church and kind of followed that philosophy for a while. And that could, for me, that only took me so far. When I got to the point where I wanted to be closer and closer to God, I would listen to what the church was saying. And I was like, okay, so I need to do this and I can heal people. I can do, because the Bible tells you can do all this kind of stuff. And I started to put a lot of that into practice. And as I did more and more of that, I noticed some, what I'm going to call red flags in the theology behind it. And this was a little bit of a struggle for me because it was, you know, I was brought up a certain way. And you're taught not to question certain things when you're brought up in any kind of faith or religion. That's just how it is. But I was seeing inconsistencies. If I'm going to lay my hands on someone and I'm going to try to heal someone, why aren't they always healed? Because it says right here in this book that I have, it should always happen, right? I had situations where I would encounter what I would call lower astral beings, demons, whatever. And I would try to use the name of Jesus to eradicate these beings. They didn't always leave. I had a situation shortly after my awakening where my children, I've got 4 kids. And at the time, they were pretty young. They were in elementary school. And I had a situation where these beings would come, and it was like only for like a week-long period, but it was right after my awakening. So it must be a frequency change or something happened. And they would inhabit my younger children. And this was something I never dealt with before. I didn't know how to deal with it. The church doesn't tell you how to deal with this stuff. They say that this stuff exists, but they just say the name of Jesus and poof, demons are gone. And that was not my experience. So I had all these things happening, and what I found was what drew these beings away, this negative energy, whatever you want to call it, was love. The more I loved my children, which I always loved my children, but I literally, if they would be going through this, a spell, I'll just call it like a little spell, I would just wrap my arms around them, and I just embodied love as much as I could. In my whole being, I thought of love because nothing else I was doing was working. I'd seen the Exorcist movies and all that. If I had had holy water, I would have thrown it on my kid. But I didn't know what to do, but I knew to love. I knew how to love. And I knew that the creator was all about love. So in my mind, I'm like, just get back to basics, get back to basics here. And so that's what I did. And I would just hold my children. And then this spirit or whatever, this darkness would just disappear. And that got me asking a lot of questions because I knew, like I said, ever since I was a little girl, I had this connection to source. So I knew source was real. I never questioned that. But there were these other things, and I had experience with these entities being real, but still not all the dots were connecting with this particular religion that I was brought up in. So then you go on a search of, well, what is the truth? Finding out the truth. Like that was like what I was after is how do I make sense of this? And I started looking different places online, and I started to realize that the people out there that at the time I would have classified more as spiritual, maybe a little new age, they were talking about the stuff that I was experiencing, and they were talking about love. And it just opened me up. I view it as you can go through life and you collect all this knowledge, right? And you put it in let's say a cup or a bowl or something. And then it gets to the top. If you're at the top, any other new information that comes in is just going to overflow. Nothing's going to stay. And so what I had to do is take stuff out of my bowls, take stuff out of my cup, empty my cup, so to speak, so that I could accept new information and not feel like I was going to hell because I was thinking of something outside the church. Because I did have this conversation with God about it. I was like, okay, if the whole Jesus thing and everything that the church teaches, if all that is real, I'm sorry, but I need to put that on pause for a second and I have to go investigate. Which was in my chart, right? I got to go explore. I got to go figure this out for myself. So please don't send me to hell while I'm exploring, please. And then when you do that, you just learn a lot more. And I talk to different people and learn more about their experiences. And some of those experiences were like mine. And I learned that not everything that I needed to know for life was in the Bible. There's a lot more out there. And through that, too, I came in contact with different people. One of those groups of people were the people at UNN. This was at the time they weren't doing news, like regular newscasts. They were doing like meetings and stuff like that with the intention of eventually doing news on a regular basis. And I caught one of their meetings online. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And they just so happened to say, hey, we're looking to expand. We're looking to bring on more people in production. I have a big background in just doing production, not even doing on camera stuff, but just editing and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, I'll email them and they'll never email me back. That's what I thought. And lo and behold, the next day, someone reached back out to me. And then I think within the next 24 hours, I had a meeting with them. And it was, Grace, when we talked about being able to instantly connect with people, that's what I experienced. Sometimes you can just start talking to someone and be like, oh, I feel like I know you. There's something there. We're like-minded, but it's even more than just being like-minded. And that's how I felt with these people. And now been working at UNN for a couple years and constantly growing, constantly learning. Always new information is coming out. And it's really just about how I was pursuing the truth and still am pursuing the truth. There's other people out there like me. And if I can simplify that process for people to discern what's right and what's wrong and how they want to live their lives, because we're here at a very special time. And I think there's a lot of other beings looking at us right now going, wow, what they're going through, even though it's very challenging, is incredible for the big picture and everything we're learning and we're growing. It's just mind blowing. And I know it's hard to see through the thick of it right now because we're in it and it's dirty and it's grimy and it's like, oh, where's the new earth? I just want to get to the new earth. But this whole journey, it's a process. And so I love being able to share what I've learned and what the team has learned with people because we're so powerful as humans. We've been told that we're weak and we're this and we're feeble. And that's a lie. That's a complete lie. Even when you compare us to other beings out there, humanity is really, really special. That's why we're here on Earth. Earth is a very unique planet. We're a nexus planet. So we can go up and we can go down. This is why the battle has been here on Earth between good and evil, because the lower astral beings wanted to take over, let's just call it heaven for just to simplify things. And that wasn't going to happen. So there's been this battle here on Earth where the last planet, you could go up or you could go down, which is why this is the battleground. And so you learn these things and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm here at an amazing time. And there's all this stuff going on. No wonder humanity is a bit frazzled at this point. But the good news is that the good guys won. We won. And so now we're doing a lot of cleaning and clearing to go to that next level, which is what a lot of us are here to do, to help with that transition.
Absolutely. So I completely understand what you're saying, but it occurs to me that there might be people listening that are maybe scratching their heads about now and saying, okay, Sunny, tell me a little bit more about what you mean. When you say ushering in the new earth, what exactly do you mean? Tell us a little bit more about what that is for people that are new to this idea.
Yeah. So when you look around the world today, you see a lot of stuff you'd probably want to change. And there were a lot of things I won't go into. You have to watch the news to learn about all the stuff they tried to do to us. But there were a lot of things that were holding us back, okay, from realizing our true potential. Because if we could get through all this layers, I call it like the matrix or whatever, if you could see beyond that, you could always ascend. That was always a possibility for humanity. But the problem is there were so many control structures in place to keep you down, to keep you from realizing who you were and who you are. And so now those control structures are being broken down. Literally every day we talk about things on the news, about things going away, AI systems going away. You will not hear any of this on mainstream media. You will not hear this on alternative media unless they are stealing our content, because we have access to stuff other people don't have access to. So it's about the clearing of all of that. And if humanity was able to get back to who we really are and not be negatively influenced by outside beings or programs or anything like that, what would that look like? And what kind of world would we want to build from there? Because the world that we see around us now was created for us. We didn't, through just being and manifesting, we create as well. But we created through this lens that wasn't real. It was artificial. Okay. So when you take all that away and you can just create with your source energy, so you co-create with source, with God, what kind of world would that be if you weren't limited, if you didn't have these, and it goes far beyond subliminal messaging, but most people know what subliminal messaging is, okay? Let's just say that was the main thing we were dealing with, and we were dealing with far worse than that, okay? But if that signal stopped and suddenly you can just act on your own as a creative being, what would the world look like? So when we talk about the new earth, it's about looking at how our world is structured, understanding who we are as humanity, who we really are, and our amazing superhuman capabilities that we have that have been dormant for a very long time. And what can we do with this? And how can we live in that perfect state that we've been hoping to achieve? How do we get there? And it's not going to happen overnight. We still have limitations of living in a 3D world right now. So what does that look like? And how do we help people along who don't have any clue as to what we're talking about right now? Because I estimate we're probably like 1% of the population, really, that truly gets what's going on. So what do we do? How do we change industry without everybody freaking out, without everybody losing their jobs? There's technologies out there that are absolutely incredible. We've been able, I hate to say it, but we've been able to cure cancer for a very long time. My brother passed away of cancer. That's heartbreaking for me to think of. And I have a lot of people I love that have passed away from cancer. We've been able to cure that for a very long time. But that's just one thing. I was doing an interview earlier today, Grace, before we hopped on, with a guy that knows a lot about sound healing. And he was talking about all the different sounds, which is essentially frequency and vibration, that can cure any disease. So I'm talking about, like, how would humanity behave and how would things change if you didn't have to worry about being sick anymore? Let's just take that for a second. If nobody got sick anymore, or if you were sick, you could play a sound or hook up to something that would naturally align your frequency, your vibration. If we could do something simple like that, as opposed to taking something through the mouth or a jab or something, how would our world change if people didn't have to worry about sickness and disease? And then you take it one step further and you're like, what if we didn't have to worry about money anymore? Because a lot of our money has been stolen from us in so many different ways. And they like to use the term, oh, we're protecting you, or this is for your protection, when really that's to take away your freedoms. So when you're able to start to deconstruct what's really happening here, you're like, oh, heck yeah. If I could do things over again, if I had a redo, I would do things totally different. So that's what I feel the new earth is. It's like, okay, you've got a clean slate now. What kind of world do you want to build? And I don't think it's just for you. It's not just for your children. Like, if we took sickness away, you're going to live a lot longer. You're probably going to be able to choose when you leave this planet and when you want to go somewhere else, right? So we're just talking about a completely different way of life than most of us have ever thought of before. And we all have a role to play in that. And it's by tapping into, I know Gracie, you and I have talked about this, but tapping into what we love to do. There's a lot of people that are doing things they don't love to do, that don't bring them joy, that isn't in alignment with any chart or anything like that, right? But what if we were able, because we didn't have to worry about sickness anymore. We didn't have to worry about making X amount of dollars. Money was provided for in some way. You still had to work, but you could work on your passion. For a lot of people, it's hard to even get back to what is my passion, because there's been so many other factors that have been thrown in the way of that, right? Just trying to survive. But we're going from a period of lack to a period of abundance. And in that abundance is where we create the new earth.
I couldn't agree more, Sunny. I love it. And so for those people who are wondering if that's going to happen in our lifetime, I really get a strong sense that is in our lifetime. Am I correct in that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
There's probably different levels, right? Because like I said, not everything is good. You can't do things overnight. If you change one industry, it changes another industry. And what we don't want is for people to be losing their jobs, not knowing what to do. That just creates fear and uncertainty. That's certainly not an emotion that we want to encourage. So some things will have baby steps, but even, like I said, even just allowing, taking finances off of people. Like, so maybe not all of the inventions and the cool technology is out yet, but maybe there's a way to provide, and this isn't socialism, but free healthcare for everybody. Okay, what if it wasn't based on taking from somebody else, but there were actually funds set aside, because there are, to cover healthcare for the entire planet. So if you take that, okay, and then people aren't worried about that, then they can start to think about other things. And so it's going to happen incrementally. How fast we go really depends on how humanity responds to this, because it's not about just taking things away. So let's take the healthcare industry, or like I like to call it the sick care industry. So we're talking about cancer. So you can have chemotherapy, you can have radiation, right? There's probably other things, trials and things like that you can be part of. It's not necessarily about taking those away. It's about giving people options to say, hey, you could do this, or you can eat XYZ. You can change your frequency this way, because that type of information is not allowed out now. Okay. We're putting that information out there, and the word is starting to get out there in different ways. But to truly make a mark on humanity, you would have been shut down. You would have been perhaps removed from this planet altogether. They will stop at nothing to protect their money, right? And healthcare is it's a huge industry, right? So that's just one example of being able to offer people choice, because you don't have choice now. You have the illusion of choice. Even when you look at the media, you may see smaller TV stations and radio stations, but follow the money and follow the ownership, because it goes back to about 5 different companies. And then those companies are owned by 2 companies. So it's like you have the illusion of choice, but it's all still controlled. So when that control is gone, then you have the freedom to really create the world you want to live in.
And I think the bigger question, like you said, is what would the world look like? What could the world look like if we didn't have these basic constraints that have been forced upon us? And what would it look like if we didn't have to be worried about health or healthcare or whatever? What if we could listen to a sound frequency and boom, be healed? Like I've been experiencing things like that more recently than ever, I'm going to say. And it's so amazing. It's powerful. Like the thought of not, I don't know. I don't think since we've talked, you got to hear about it, Sunny, but one of the most visible things that happened to me since we last talked was I had a theta healing session, and literally this part of my shoulder that I had extra stuff. I'm going to say extra parts in there for decades that caused me so much pain. I have not had a problem since. And it was like, I don't even know how to describe what happened, but the sense of well-being that I have and the possibility for my life without the fear of that pain coming back and that's just one thing, is extraordinary. So imagine for everyone, if we all had that potential, if we could all experience that, not having that thing, whatever that thing is that's been limiting you, whether it's money or a health condition or whatever. We have the technology, like you said, Sunny. It's been obscure. I'm trying to think of the word. Hidden, all this hidden stuff. So I love the question that you're asking, and the answers that you get. Of course, this is one of the things I've learned in my life. The answer we get, it always depends on the question we ask. So if we ask, what do we want the new earth to look like? I think that's where I come in, and that's where we come in terms of collaboration, because together, I always say we're positively impacting 5 billion people by 2025. Why is that? Because we're creating a tipping point for humanity. We're changing the frequency of the planet, but it's not any one of us by ourselves. It's through collaboration, frequency, and alignment. So the time of the single shingle is past. The time of collaboration is here. And as you're doing that you've got messengers all over the world now sharing good news stories, helping to shift the frequency for people, ingesting that information and that perspective of what's positive in the world instead of what's negative. This is not the same thing as sticking your head in the sand, which I'm sure you've heard before, but we are making a big difference. And so you're making it all. We are here. You're right. We probably in years past, you're right, we would have probably been disappeared. But right now we are being fully supported because the energy patterns are here, which is shifting everything for humanity. And so we are being more and more supported to be ourselves and to focus on our joy. And we've got all this AI stuff, which a lot of people are fearful about. But what if What if that was here to take away the mundaneness of a lot of the things that we do begrudgingly, that we don't, that don't bring us joy, and it frees us up to do the things that we really bring us joy? What if we could be like children again and play and really enjoy life truly?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's actually a difference between AI, which is what most people have heard of, and organic intelligence. So, organic intelligence does the same thing as AI, but it's not artificial. It's from the creator. But it's exactly what you're talking about, Grace. It's being able to, do we really need to have a person do that? Is there a process for doing that so that person can be free to do their passion? What they're really excited about. So I'm not against AI or anything like that, but I think that it's always about the agenda behind it. Okay. It's like most things in life. There are tools, like just take social media. Okay. It has been used to do incredible things. You and I are communicating now because of an internet platform that was created, right? So it can do great things. Can you also get on there and spread negativity and put people down? Yeah, you can. So if you look at AI, and the people that were behind it, or even the beings, I will say, that were behind it, they were trying to basically create robot humans, right? And take away some of the things that make humanity so special, which is our creativity and our connection to source. So that's crazy, right? That's creating Borgs, like human Borgs that are connected to some sort of system, and they can do whatever they want to with you once you're connected to the system. It's like an episode of Star Trek or something like that. But we're saying, no, there's a way to use this kind of technology so it works for the enhancement of humanity. And you don't have to be scared of it. Like, tech can be used for good things. I use tech all the time. I use AI to help me think of sentence structure for the scripts that I write and everything. So yeah, so there's always, and I think this is part of living as part of a planet that has free will, because we're in the third density. That is key for being in the third density. You have to have free will to be able to make your choice. Are you going to use AI for good, or are you going to use it for bad? The choice is yours.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so fascinating. We always have choice. And I think that's one of the things that we can celebrate, is that we do have choice. And so I don't want to run out of time. I have one other question for you, Sunny.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your perspective. I think it's fascinating and so valuable. And my master's degree was in globalization. So I totally understand what you're saying about the handful of follow the money and everything ends in just a couple hands. It's very interesting to look at that. But you mentioned something that I wanted to ask you about, which was something about, I'm trying to think of your exact words. I think of it as our superpowers are being switched on, and you use different terms. So some people would say evolving, some people would say we have new capacity now that we didn't have before. How would you describe what's happening for humanity on that level?
Okay, so it's a little bit of both, I think, because our DNA has been messed with, for sure. No doubt about it. But when you're connected to the creator, amazing things can happen. So I view it as remembering our abilities. And there were other things too, other programs and things that have been taken down now that we don't have to be concerned about, that someday you'll probably read about in a book or on some website or on UNN someday. You'll read about it if you're not watching now, that would hold us back in different ways. So we did have a lot of limitations placed on us, but we still always had the potential to, I know this is a big buzzword now, but to ascend. Humanity always had that potential, but you just had so many blockages. As like Jesus was a good example of that, of being able to do that, even though he lived on this planet like the rest of us and was a human just like the rest of us. He was able to ascend. And there have been other people too, not just Jesus, that whole groups of people have been able to do that. But as far as our abilities are concerned, I think it's about remembering. It's about practicing. It's about getting out of our head. They say that we use 10% of our brain capacity. I'm not sure if that number is accurate or not, but if it is, or if it's remotely accurate, then why aren't we using more? And how do we turn that on? How do we do things? Because everything begins like in the mind. If you believe you can do something, you really can do it. If you believe you can't do something, you're never going to do it. It starts there. And so I've talked to people, there are people, more and more groups, I love it. They're exploring, I think I said it was a superhuman, I don't know, maybe I used a term like that, superhuman abilities, I think is what I usually call it. But it's like spoon bending, things like that, about being telepathic, about traveling places in your mind. it's incredible what we have the ability to do. Now, a lot of people are like, that's a little crazy or whatever. We're just not used to it. And a lot of these things, like I talked about the DNA being turned off, we can get this back though. And it's naturally rebuilding itself even now. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's not something that you've got to necessarily work at. But I try to make these little small adjustments in my life now. Like one of the things that I do, I watched this movie, and I've actually interviewed some people about it too, about children, which by the way, children, we can have a whole conversation about that because they're amazing and they're here to help us through this whole transition. But children being able to read blindfolded. So I literally have some cards over here, and I have a blindfold. And that's one of the things that I do to practice my abilities is I will blindfold myself and I'll test myself. And I'm getting better and better at being able to predict what a card is. And it's not for any other reason other than I'm just going in and I'm thinking and I'm trying to feel the color, if it's a color I'm trying to project or whatever. And I'm thinking about it, and it's happening more and more. So there's like a learning process. But I feel like we're remembering our skills, and it's getting easier and easier to do that. The more you connect with Source, the Creator, the easier it is to do those things because those gifts come from God. And so that's how I view it, at least. Things are naturally happening on this planet to make it easier for us. A lot of the things that were limiting us in the past are going away. Any darkness, dark matter, things like that would interfere with our connection to God, to Source. But yeah, it's happening. It's happening. And one of the things, because I mentioned earlier, I come from the church. And one of the sayings that Jesus said is that you will do things greater than I. And I always think about that because I'm like, oh my goodness. Like we read about the stuff that Jesus did. And a lot of it, like when Jesus, quote unquote, did healings, a lot of people think that Jesus did the healing. But if you read in the scripture, it actually says your faith has healed you. So again, we're talking about our faith. We're talking about our minds. There were places that Jesus went where he said, I can't heal anyone. Was it because he suddenly lost his magical powers? No. It's because he never healed people. He was the conduit because people couldn't get out of their head. They couldn't get out of their head that they couldn't heal themselves. They had to place their power in something else in order for that to manifest. And so when you start to understand this and you're like, oh my gosh, the power is really in me. God has given me this ability to do this. It was there all along. We just didn't realize our amazing abilities. That's what I'm talking about. It is happening more and more. Teleportation, things like that. That's going to be commonplace.
I agree. And when I give readings, I like to look at, in fact, I'm just going to do this to demonstrate real quick. So I like to look at the chart and say, you have superpowers, certain superpowers. So for instance, one of the superpowers that's obvious to me, Sunny, it was actually two things that jump out at me. One is you have a lot of natural intuitive gifts. That's this yellow triangle on the far left. So you have consistent access to a lot of intuition, but we all have that. It's just that there are certain things that are more consistent for you than for me, but we all have access to all of it. So like you're saying, it's coming, I like to say it's coming online. And one of your superpowers, for instance, this on the right, the white triangle on the right, it means you're an empath. And so you can feel the emotions of others. And that's a real powerful gift. But it's just like everything. When you understand what it is and you use it to connect with another person and experience their emotions with them, or you amplify the emotions so they can have a different or better experience, that's one thing. But then you can also give away your power and just take on that energy as if it was yours when it's not, and be like the tail that wags the dog. Right? And then that's an unhealthy use of your power. So we all have all of it. That's what I want to say is we all have all of it. And it's interesting to see as all of our abilities come online, what that's going to do for the new earth that we're creating. And so I like to say we are choosing with our energy what earth we are creating and what earth we are going to live into, because I actually believe in multiple realities at the same time. And so which one do you want to live in? And so where you focus, I believe that where you focus your energy, that's the one that you're in present in. So we choose, we vote with our energy. And so that's what I want to leave our listeners with today is when we are ushering in the new earth, it's not just you, it's not just me, but collectively we are ushering in the new earth. And which new earth are we ushering in? The one that we choose, the one that we co-create with our choice, with our energy, with our frequency. So that's why it's so important I think that we focus on what we want, not what we don't want, because
Yeah,
when we focus on what we don't want, we can create that just as easily because we're so powerful, like you said.
we are. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, it's so amazing. So, Sunny, if people want to know more about your work in ushering in the new earth, tell them a little
Mm.
bit more about United Nurse Network. We have the URL down there, but tell them what they're going to find there.
Yeah, so if you go to unitednetwork.earth, that's our main site. We have different sections that you can go to. You can become a member, which gives you access to all of our newscasts as they come out. So right now we do news on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Newscasts, it's usually about 2 hours, 2.5, maybe, depending on what we have to talk about that day. And so we've got the news. We also have specials and stuff that we do. We have original series that we do. So all that is available if you're a member. If you're not a member, you can still get access to that content. We put it out on YouTube and Rumble a week later. So you'll still get access. And trust me, it's okay because no one else is talking about this stuff. So the fact that it's a week late, it's totally fine. You're not missing out. And then so that's our main website, and that's how you can connect with us. We do have a community that's available through our app too. So if you want to connect more and ask us questions and stuff like that's always available. Grace, I did want to talk about a video that I just released. It's actually not associated directly with UNN, but we talk about this kind of stuff all the time on UNN. And I got my own download from Source. This was about 3 weeks ago. And he was specifically talking about, listen, a lot of people are going to start their awakening process now. And he gave me 5 truths that would help humanity in this process. So I actually went, and maybe Grace, I can send you the link to it because I posted it on my personal YouTube page, but it's a 15-minute video that goes through these 5 truths and explains them more. Because as we're beginning this journey of deconstructing what we thought we knew about Earth, about who we are as humanity, about our future and all of that, it can be a little disconcerting for people. It's equated to like, if you ever saw Alice in Wonderland, she's falling through the rabbit hole and she's trying to grab anything she can. And it can be a little scary, quite frankly. But if we had some facts that we could base things off of right away, UNN isn't necessarily for everybody. It's a little advanced, right? So if you're not ready to like kind of dive in and learn everything, what do people know should they know in the very beginning if they want to continue on this journey? And so I'll send you the link to that. It's called 5 Truths. And hopefully it'll help as many people as Source allows.
Absolutely. We'll put it in the show notes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sunny. I love the work you're doing. It's so important and so aligned with with our work is so aligned to know your self-revolution. So helping everyone know, love, and trust themselves because it starts with us. And we have to put our own oxygen mask on first. We have to recognize who we really are, remember who we really are. And when we shine our light, we then can activate's not maybe the best word, but we can help others to shine their light too, just by the nature of our being and by us showing up as ourselves. It gives other people courage to show up as themselves. So you are doing some very courageous work ushering in the new earth. No small task and no small order. Thank you for bucking the system, Sunny. For all of those of us who appreciate the unorthodox work that you're doing and the world that you're helping us to create, I just want to honor you and thank you and appreciate you so much from the bottom of my heart, because this is important. This is so important. And if there weren't people like you that had the courage to step out and do something really radical like this, I don't know, I think it would take a lot longer. So thank you for what you're doing. I'm about shortcuts. I'm like, yeah. So I want to say, this is something that I haven't really announced yet, but we're going to have on our site very soon a new page to the free report, and it's all about your role in creating the new earth. So it's funny we're talking about this. I just feel compelled to share this. So everyone has a role, and so your role, Sunny, is to orchestrate the energy of others as you're doing, and there's going to be a little blurb more about that. And my role is to find shortcuts to help us get there faster. One of the ways I'm doing that is creating this show and putting on the stage people like yourself that can help get the message out faster and to more people. Let's expedite this process, because I'm ready to be there. Let's do it.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Sunny. So together we can positively impact 5 billion people by 2025. I call it the Know Yourself Revolution. You might call it the new earth, the new heaven, the new world, the new paradigm, whatever it is. It's the world that we are choosing to create together through collaboration. It's not in competition. It is about collaboration. That's the name of the game going forward. And as we move closer and closer towards unity and seeing that we are all connected anyway, it's more just about our perception changing. And then, as you mentioned, mentioned about our DNA shifts. We're going through all these things. I don't think you're right. I don't think we have to do anything but give ourselves space, self-compassion, focusing on forgiveness, things like that can help us become lighter faster, let go of those burdens, all the heavy weights that we've been carrying for so long that don't belong on our shoulders. Like that thing that was removed from my neck was literally a chip on my shoulder. It was representative of an energetic chip on my shoulder that I have finally let go. And I'm so grateful. And I just want freedom. I want freedom for myself. I want freedom for everyone within the sound of our voices today, Sunny. So thank you again for what you're doing. I'm so grateful. We'll put your video in the show notes. Is there anything that you would like to say as we close out today?
Just thank you, Grace. Thank you for, everyone tuning in. I believe you're here for a reason. And if this message resonated with you, share it with other people, because it really is about us coming together. If we want change, it starts here. I know it sounds cliche, but it's real. I know a lot of people that are trying to manifest change without doing anything. That's not how manifestation works, guys. We have to be active participants. We have to take it to the next step. You have to bring this about, and then the universe will come alongside you and help you in this, because this is where we're going. This is for the betterment of humanity, but you have to take that first step.
We get to be before we can do, and do before we can have. And together, we're going to positively impact 5 billion people by 2025 with the Know Yourself Revolution. Thank you, Sunny, for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you, Grace.